Fear gripped Jade's heart as she stood at the kitchen counter, absently stirring her coffee. The morning sun filtered through the windows, casting a warm glow over the room, but it did nothing to dispel the sense of dread that had settled in her chest. Today was different. Today, she had a doctor's appointment that she had been dreading for weeks. For months, she had felt a persistent discomfort in her chest. At first, she dismissed it as stress or a lingering cold, but when the pain became impossible to ignore, Anthony, her husband, insisted she see a doctor. "Just to be sure," he had said, his eyes filled with concern. Jade loved Anthony's protective nature, even if it sometimes bordered on overbearing. The clock ticked closer to her appointment time. She sighed, set down her coffee, and went to get ready. She dressed in her favorite blue blouse and a pair of comfortable jeans, trying to convince herself that everything would be fine. At the clinic, the waiting room was a blur of pastel colors and muted conversations. Jade's heart pounded as she waited for her name to be called. She distracted herself by flipping through an old magazine, but the words blurred on the page. Finally, the nurse called her name. Jade followed her down a hallway lined with cheerful posters about healthy living. She was ushered into an examination room where Dr. Collins, her physician, greeted her with a warm smile. "Good morning, Jade. How have you been feeling?" Dr. Collins asked, her tone professional yet kind. Jade explained her symptoms, trying to keep her voice steady. Dr. Collins listened attentively, making notes. After a thorough examination and a few routine tests, she asked Jade to wait while she reviewed the results. The minutes dragged on. Jade's anxiety grew with each passing second. When Dr. Collins finally returned, her expression was serious. "Jade, I've found a small nodule on your lungs. It's crucial that we investigate this further," Dr. Collins said gently. "I'm going to refer you to a specialist for more tests. It could be benign, but we need to be certain." The words hung in the air like a dark cloud. Jade's mind raced, 1,000 thoughts colliding at once. She nodded numbly, trying to process what she had just heard. Dr. Collins placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "I know this is difficult to hear, but it's important to stay positive. We'll take it one step at a time." Jade left the clinic in a daze, her thoughts a whirlwind of fear and uncertainty. She called Anthony from the car, her voice trembling as she relayed the news. He insisted on coming home immediately, promising to be there for her every step of the way. That evening, as they sat together on the couch, Anthony held her close. "We'll get through this, Jade, I promise," he whispered, his voice steady but his eyes betraying his worry. Jade wanted to believe him. She clung to his words, drawing strength from his presence. But as the days passed and she underwent more tests, the reality of her situation became impossible to ignore. The nodule was malignant, and the doctors recommended an aggressive course of treatment. Jade's treatment began swiftly. Chemotherapy sessions, radiation treatments, and endless doctor visits became the new norm. Each session left her weaker, but she fought with everything she had, determined not to let the disease define her. Anthony was by her side through it all at first. He attended every appointment, held her hand during the difficult moments, and whispered words of encouragement when she felt like giving up. But as the weeks turned into months, the strain began to show. Anthony seemed increasingly distant, his once unwavering support wavering. One night, after a particularly grueling chemotherapy session, Jade noticed the change in him. He was preoccupied, lost in thought, and barely responded to her attempts to talk about her day. When she pressed him, he brushed it off as stress from work. Jade tried to understand. She knew this was hard on him too, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Despite Anthony's growing distance, Jade found solace in the small acts of kindness from her friends and neighbors. Mrs. Thompson from next door would often drop by with homemade soup, and her best friend Lucy made sure to visit regularly, bringing along Jade's favorite books and movies to lift her spirits. Lucy was Jade's rock during this time. They had been friends since college, and their bond was unbreakable. Lucy was the one person Jade could confide in about her fears and frustrations. One evening, as they sat together on Jade's porch, Lucy turned to her with a serious expression. "Jade, you're going to get through this," she said firmly. "You're the strongest person I know." Jade smiled weakly. I just wish I felt as strong as you think I am." 3 months into her treatment, Jade's condition showed little improvement. The doctors adjusted her regimen, but the uncertainty weighed heavily on her. Anthony, overwhelmed by fear and the emotional toll, found solace in an unexpected place. Bella, a co-worker who had always admired him from afar. Bella was charming, attentive, and everything Anthony felt he was missing during Jade's illness. Their conversations, which began as innocent support, soon turned into something more. They started meeting outside of work, and before long Anthony was entangled in an affair he never intended to have. Bella was manipulative, using Anthony's vulnerability to her advantage. She painted herself as the escape he needed, the distraction from his overwhelming reality, and Anthony, desperate for a reprieve, fell deeper into her web. He kept the affair a secret, justifying his actions as a way to cope with the stress. But guilt gnawed at him, especially when he looked at Jade, who was fighting so hard to stay alive. Jade continued her battle with unyielding determination. She refused to let the disease take everything from her. With the support of her friends, especially her best friend Lucy, she managed to find moments of strength and hope. One evening, as Jade and Anthony sat in the living room, she noticed how distant he had become. "Anthony, are you okay?" she asked softly. He looked up, startled out of his thoughts. "Yeah, just work stuff," he replied, forcing a smile. Jade didn't press further. She was too exhausted to delve into what she feared was growing between them. Instead, she focused on her recovery, holding on to the hope that things would get better. Anthony's behavior grew more erratic as time went on. He would come home late, claiming he had to work overtime. Jade wanted to believe him, but the doubt gnawed at her. She noticed little things, like the scent of unfamiliar perfume on his clothes, and the way he would avoid her gaze when she asked about his day. One night as they lay in bed, Jade finally voiced her concerns. "Anthony, is there something you're not telling me?" Anthony turned to her, his expression a mix of guilt and frustration. "Jade, you're imagining things. I'm just stressed about work and everything going on with you." But Jade wasn't convinced. She felt a growing sense of dread, fearing that their marriage was unraveling just when she needed him the most. As Jade's health took a severe turn for the worse, she was admitted to the hospital for intensive care. Bella, sensing an opportunity, began to pressure Anthony more. She wanted him to make their relationship public, to leave Jade and start anew with her. "Anthony, you can't keep living a lie," Bella whispered one night after they had met secretly. "Jade's condition isn't getting better. You need to think about your future." Anthony was torn. He knew what he was doing was wrong, but he felt trapped between his duty to Jade and his illicit relationship with Bella. At the hospital, Jade found solace in Dr. Sarah Collins, her therapist, and Lucy, her ever-supportive friend. They provided the emotional strength she needed to keep fighting. "Jade, you're stronger than you think," Dr. Collins would say during their sessions. "This is just another battle, and you're not alone." Lucy was a constant presence, bringing laughter and light into Jade's darkest days. "We're going to get through this," she would say, her optimism infectious. Meanwhile, Bella's manipulation reached new heights. She began to orchestrate a plan to secure her place in Anthony's life permanently. She pretended to be pregnant, using the lie to manipulate Anthony into giving her access to his finances. Desperate and confused, Anthony complied, hoping to secure a future for what he believed to be his unborn child. Jade's hospitalization marked a turning point. Bella's pressure on Anthony intensified. She wanted him to leave Jade and start their life together, using her fake pregnancy as leverage. "Anthony, I can't wait forever," Bella hissed one evening. "If you don't tell her, I will." Under intense pressure, Anthony finally confessed his infidelity to Jade. She was devastated, the news hitting her harder than any diagnosis. The betrayal cut deep, but in that moment of despair, Jade found a flicker of strength. "You're leaving me for her?" she asked, her voice trembling but her eyes fierce. Anthony, filled with guilt and shame, could only nod. "I'm sorry, Jade. I never wanted this to happen." Jade's world crumbled, but she refused to let it destroy her. She decided to focus on her recovery, drawing strength from within. She distanced herself from Anthony, realizing that she deserved better. Bella, realizing Anthony's resources were limited, shifted her attention to a promising young man at the company. She used deceit and manipulation to secure his interest, eventually leaving Anthony completely. Jade's world crumbled, but she refused to let it destroy her. She decided to focus on her recovery, drawing strength from within. She distanced herself from Anthony, realizing that she deserved better. Bella wasted no time revealing her true intentions. From the very start, she showed an intense interest in money and possessions. "Anthony, we need a new car," she often said, "and a bigger house would be perfect too." Her demands for luxury were constant and grew each day. Anthony, dazzled by her beauty and charm, did everything he could to please her. He began dipping into his savings to satisfy her desires. However, reality soon set in. His resources were limited, and he couldn't sustain the extravagant lifestyle Bella wanted. One evening, while dining at an expensive restaurant Bella insisted on, Anthony tried to talk to her about his financial concerns. "Bella, we're spending too much. I can't keep up with this pace." Bella rolled her eyes, clearly annoyed. "Anthony, if you love me, you'll find a way. I deserve the best, and so do you. We shouldn't settle for anything less." Anthony felt a pang of guilt. He wanted to make her happy, but he was reaching his limit. As the weeks went by, Anthony began to notice inconsistencies in Bella's stories. She often asked for money for various emergencies that seemed increasingly dubious. One day, Bella claimed she needed a substantial amount for a risky pregnancy. "Anthony, I need this money for the baby's health. Please don't question it." Anthony felt uneasy but complied, hoping he was wrong about his suspicions. However, when he checked his accounts, he saw they were nearly empty. Bella had drained them. Heartbroken and angry, Anthony confronted Bella. "What is going on, Bella? Where did all our money go?" Bella, unfazed, replied coldly, "I needed it, Anthony. For us. For our future." Anthony's distrust grew. He started to see through Bella's manipulations, but it was too late. She had already moved on to a new target, a naive and ambitious young man at his company. Meanwhile, Jade was on a different path. After the betrayal, she decided to focus on her recovery and her future. She distanced herself from Anthony, realizing she deserved better. Her health improved slowly but steadily. During a routine consultation, she met Dr. Thompson. His compassion and care reignited a spark in her. "You're making good progress, Jade," Dr. Thompson said with a warm smile. "It's slow, but you're getting there." Jade appreciated his kindness. "Thank you, Dr. Thompson. It means a lot to hear that." Over time, their professional relationship blossomed into a deep connection. Jade found herself looking forward to her appointments, not just for the medical care, but for the conversations with Dr. Thompson. One day, during a particularly difficult session, Jade opened up to him. "It's not just the illness," she confessed. "It's everything. Anthony, the betrayal, the uncertainty, it feels overwhelming." Dr. Thompson listened intently, his expression compassionate. "Jade, you've been through a lot. It's important to focus on your healing, both physically and emotionally. You're stronger than you realize." Jade felt a weight lift off her shoulders. She realized she had found a true ally in Dr. Thompson. Their bond grew stronger, and Jade started to feel something more than just gratitude. She was falling in love. Back in Anthony's world, things were falling apart. Bella's manipulations had left him financially ruined. When he discovered the full extent of her deceit, he was devastated. Desperate, Anthony tried to confront Bella again. But she was already moving on, spreading malicious rumors about him at work. She painted him as unstable and untrustworthy, making his professional life unbearable. The pressure became too much. Anthony was forced to resign, leaving him unemployed and broken. He moved back in with his parents, a shadow of the man he once was. How did it come to this? He often wondered, staring at the ceiling in his childhood bedroom. How did I let it get this far? While Anthony was grappling with his downfall, Bella continued her schemes. She shifted her attention to the young man at the company, using the same tactics of deceit and manipulation. Her goal was clear: secure another source of wealth to maintain her luxurious lifestyle. Anthony's attempts to reconcile with Jade were met with cold reality. She had moved on, focusing on her recovery and new love. Anthony knew he had to change. He sought therapy, determined to understand his mistakes and rebuild his life from the ground up. In therapy, Anthony faced painful truths about himself. "I was so blinded by her beauty," he admitted to his therapist. "I ignored all the signs. I let her use me." His therapist nodded. "It's important to forgive yourself, Anthony. Recognize your mistakes, but don't let them define you. You have the power to change." Anthony took these words to heart. He started working on himself, slowly but surely. He knew he had a long road ahead, but he was committed to becoming a better person. One day, he decided to reach out to Jade. "Jade, I know I hurt you deeply," he said, his voice filled with remorse. "I don't expect forgiveness, but I want you to know that I'm truly sorry for everything." Jade listened, her heart aching for the pain they both had endured. "Anthony, I appreciate your apology. It's going to take time, but I hope we can both find peace and happiness in our lives." While Anthony was on his path to redemption, Jade and Dr. Thompson continued to build their relationship. They supported each other through life's ups and downs, sharing moments of joy and sorrow. One evening, as they sat together on a bench overlooking a serene lake, Dr. Thompson turned to Jade. "Jade, there's something I've been wanting to tell you." Jade looked at him, her heart pounding. "What is it, Dr. Thompson?" He took a deep breath. "I've fallen in love with you, Jade. You've shown incredible strength and resilience, and I admire you more than words can say." Tears of happiness filled Jade's eyes. "I love you too, Dr. Thompson. You've been my rock through all of this. I don't know what I would have done without you." They embraced, feeling a sense of peace and happiness that had eluded them for so long. Jade knew that this was the beginning of a new chapter in her life, one filled with love, hope, and endless possibilities. Jade also became an advocate for others facing serious illnesses. She shared her story, offering hope and encouragement to those who were struggling. Her journey inspired many, showing that even in the darkest times, there is always a glimmer of hope. As the weeks turned into months, Jade's health continued to improve. The treatments were working, and she felt a renewed sense of hope. Dr. Thompson became more than just her doctor. He became a close friend and confidant. Their connection deepened with each visit, and Jade found herself looking forward to their conversations. One day, during a routine checkup, Dr. Thompson smiled warmly at Jade. "Your scans look excellent, Jade. It seems the treatments are working better than we anticipated. You're making remarkable progress." Tears of relief welled up in Jade's eyes. "Thank you, Dr. Thompson. I couldn't have done this without your support." Dr. Thompson reached out and gently squeezed her hand. "You've been incredibly brave, Jade. I'm just glad to have been part of your journey." Their eyes met, and in that moment, Jade realized that her feelings for Dr. Thompson had grown into something deeper. She saw the same affection reflected in his eyes. As Jade's health stabilized, she and Dr. Thompson began to spend more time together outside of the hospital. They enjoyed long walks in the park, quiet dinners, and shared stories about their lives. The bond between them grew stronger with each passing day. One evening, as they sat together on a bench overlooking a serene lake, Dr. Thompson turned to Jade. "Jade, there's something I've been wanting to tell you." Jade looked at him, her heart pounding. "What is it, Dr. Thompson?" He took a deep breath. "I've fallen in love with you, Jade. You've shown incredible strength and resilience, and I admire you more than words can say." Tears of happiness filled Jade's eyes. "I love you too, Dr. Thompson. You've been my rock through all of this. I don't know what I would have done without you." They embraced, feeling a sense of peace and happiness that had eluded them for so long. Jade knew that this was the beginning of a new chapter in her life, one filled with love, hope, and endless possibilities. Meanwhile, Anthony struggled to rebuild his life. Living with his parents gave him the time and space to reflect on his mistakes and seek redemption. He attended therapy sessions regularly, determined to understand his actions and become a better person. One day, he reached out to Jade. "Jade, I know I hurt you deeply and I don't expect forgiveness, but I want you to know that I'm truly sorry for everything. I'm working on myself, and I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me someday." Jade listened, her heart aching for the pain they both had endured. Anthony, I appreciate your apology. It's going to take time, but I hope we can both find peace and happiness in our lives. With Anthony on his path to redemption and Jade finding new love, both of their lives took a turn for the better. Jade and Dr. Thompson continued to build their relationship, supporting each other through life's ups and downs. They made plans for the future, excited about the possibilities that lay ahead. Jade also became an advocate for others facing serious illnesses. She shared her story, offering hope and encouragement to those who were struggling. Her journey inspired many, showing that even in the darkest times, there is always a glimmer of hope.